Hey, what's up guys? If this is going to be the last update we get on the PTS before patch 7.0 officially launches in the real game, I think Bulwark is going to be the undisputed king in terms of power level, and I just wanted to go through my build for Bulwark, what I think will work for most average players, and then I'll throw on my True Solo absolute difficulty exfiltration run where I solo the new Trygon boss with the Bulwark, just so you guys can see the build working at the hardest possible difficulty. So we'll get right into it here. So we'll start off with the weapons for a change. I believe that the Power Fist is still really strong, but for this build I went with the Power Sword. Why? Because I like the Power Sword and it's fun and it's really not too bad. And I also believe that fast weapons are inherently more survivable when you're soloing in high difficulties, because when you get locked into a slow weapons animation, you can get fucked over by like Lictor's surprise attacks or Ravener pop out of the ground attacks, and if you're locked in your animation, you're just screwed and they're just gonna hop on you and that can ruin your run. But something like a Power Sword that swings really fast, you have a better chance not to get stuck in that kind of situation. So even though it may not be as powerful in terms of damage output as something like the Power Fist, it's still actually pretty decent. So I build the Power Sword like this, so we'll just quickly go over it here. So I think the Bulwark has armor remaining a lot of the time, so that's a free 10% extra damage right there. And then after switching, you get 20% more. So you can just, you know, when you're in combat, just try to switch back and forth between the stances. And then melee damage. While in Power Whirl, you can't get knocked back. That's when you're in the heavy stance, and then you do the dash attack and he kind of whirls around. It comes in handy from time to time, but you don't actually end up power whirling that much, but better than nothing. 10% more melee damage, 15% range damage reduction while performing light combo. That's nice. This can be nice, but in order to get all of these over here, you've got to skip it. So, and then Power Rake deals 50% more damage. Sometimes I like to stay in the light attack stance and then just Power Rake blocking enemies instead of switching over to heavy stance. So Power Rake can actually be useful sometimes, so that's actually a decent perk there. And then for Extremist level, bonus 15%, Minoris 20%, power style attacks gain 100% more contested health, and then Majoris 10%, which is nice. That's really nice. And then for the heavy bolt pistol, you got to take the ammo version. I love the really accurate one because I love to shoot stuff without ADSing, but you just don't have enough bullets, unfortunately, so you got to take the more ammo one. And then this is how I build it out, but you know, you can do it different ways, but the reason I like to go down this route is so that I can get the 50% decrease spread without firing, and then I go up here for the headshot damage because headshots are pretty easy on Tyranid enemies. So we'll just quickly damage 10%, additional target penetration, 20% ammo, magazine size. After killing a Majoris, you get 25% increased damage, so that's insane because you're killing a Majoris practically the entire run. Damage 10% against Terminus. First round in the mag deals 25. I should play around this more, like reload more often and get that bonus 25, but I don't do it a lot in my True Solo run that you're gonna see, but it's still nice to have. And then class ability, extra 20% damage afterward, 50% spread. After gun strike, instant reload. That's really nice. And then 20% more headshot damage. I play on mouse and keyboard, so it does make this a bit easier. If I was on controller, I might just go with the 10% damage. And then getting into the perks. So it's pretty much the standard Intimidating Aura build. So it's Intimidating Aura. It's the same as it was in patch 6. 6.2 in the real game. And then Armor of Contempt, Armor Reinforcement. This is huge, you know, like this really helps you stay alive, especially in boss battles. It's not as OP as it used to be because it used to give you all armor back every time you gun strike a boss, but it still gives you 1 armor now, which is a lot better than nothing. And then still contested health, fading more slowly is still the best. Damage over time within the banner AoE, that one's really nice, but you could maybe play around with these other two, but I like to keep it on that one. And then you got to take Invigorating Icon. Even with the 50% slower recharge, it's still the best. All squad members within banner deal 20% more damage. I should have probably switched it out because honestly you don't put the banner down that often when you're running True Solo because you just kind of use it when you need to heal, so maybe I could do that one next time. Armored Advance is still the best because especially when you're running solo or in high difficulties, it's so important not to get knocked around by enemies because getting knocked around can mean you can get comboed to death, which is absolutely feels like garbage and it feels not fair, and it's the easiest way to get yourself killed. So anything that reduces that is really strong. And then for the prestige perks, we went with the melee kills of Extremis restores ammo, range damage by 20%, Medicae stims for 40%, and ability charge is restored by 1% for every blocked range attack. Man, this actually helps your flag regen like a lot faster, and it's super powerful, so it's definitely worth taking even if you have to like give up, you know, some of the other prestige perks. It's totally worth it, especially if you're struggling to stay alive in solo runs. Alright, so we'll get right into the True Solo Absolute Difficulty Exfiltration run. This is the level with the new Trygon boss. True Solo is a mod where you remove your 2 bot allies. A regular solo run is where you still have the bots. True Solo is a little bit harder because you have to deal with all the enemies yourself, and when you get like triple extremist spawns, usually if you have the bots, they may take some of the heat for you, but it's like a little bit of a different kind of challenge when you're by yourself dealing with like triple extremists or bosses in particular. I use the same True Solo mod that Zambit uses, who is a prominent solo runner, and actually got the instructions from one of his recent videos on how to install it. And I believe he said in one of his recent streams that he actually developed the mod for the PTS, or at least figured out how to implement it in the PTS, so kudos to him, and thanks for sharing that with the community. Some YouTubers may say that True Solo is not legit and it's cheating, and I've heard some YouTubers say that some of these True Solo runners are cheating. I've watched True Solo runners like the prominent ones like Zambit and First Tour Guardsman complete their runs live on stream, and they're definitely legit. They're really good players and they're definitely not cheating. So getting right into more of why I think the Power Sword is good, you can do this with the Power Fist as well, and if you're a fencing enjoyer, you can even use the fencing Power Fist, but the reason I like to take the Power Sword and why it worked well for this run is if you take the Power Fist, you probably should take the Prestige perk that does the 20% extra damage on charged attacks. And so that eats up one of the prestige perk slots, but if you take the Power Sword, you don't need that since the Power Sword doesn't do charged attacks. Although I have read in some YouTube comments that some people believe that the heavy attacks of the Power Sword count as charged attacks for the 20% damage prestige perk, but that's still unconfirmed, so I need to actually go through and test that to see if it's true, because it could be good if it is true, but as of right now it's still unconfirmed. And then, so when you free up that prestige slot, then you have the ability to take the prestige perk that gives you the flag refill when you block ranged shots with your shield. And so when you do the intimidating aura build that I showed earlier in this video, and you take the perk where it spreads damage whenever you block shots with the shield, then you fill up the flag pretty quickly, and it can really just like give you a lot more survivability because you're constantly blocking range shots without even trying while you're sprinting and stuff, because it just auto blocks them when you sprint. So you just fill it up really fast. And surprisingly, I don't think I used it maybe more than 5 times this run, but it is nice when you need it. And the reason why I think Bulwark is the undisputed king in terms of power level is because, especially at like absolute difficulty where one mistake can get most of your life bar wiped out, it's so punishing not to have the ability to get some health back. And on absolute difficulty, the medkit spawns are even reduced a little bit, so you may only find like 2 or 3 medkits throughout a whole run, and depending on how well you know the relic locations, you may or may not find any relics. So just having that room for error and the ability to heal with the flag is really nice. And the buffs to the heavy bolt pistol mean that Bulwark can actually deal with ranged units or flying units a little bit easier now, so that shores up his biggest weakness quite well. So overall, it puts the Bulwark in a really good spot. And even though the tactical and the sniper can kill stuff a lot faster than the Bulwark can, especially at range, it's still his survivability and his tankiness, because he also gets inherent damage reduction. He has just flat out more HP than they do. He has just as many armor bars as the tactical does, and once he gets into range of his enemies, he can kill them just as fast as any other class, because Intimidating Aura is so overpowered right now. So all that stuff in combination just makes him really, really powerful. And you'll see that throughout this run. There is something to be said for skill ceilings coming into effect. If you're a very, very high skill player, you might be able to make better use of like the tactical or sniper's damage output. But if you're, you know, closer to the average side, then I think you're going to get better use out of the Bulwark. The tactical has much less room for error, although he does have a higher damage ceiling. So if you're making very, very few mistakes, you may get better use out of the tactical. But I just found that the Bulwark is just best for, you know, players that don't play perfectly, which that's definitely me. I struggled to get this true solo clear of Exfiltration, so the Bulwark definitely was the only class that I've been able to clear it with so far. But part of that was struggling to learn the boss, because it takes an hour just to get to the boss in true solo, so you only get, you know, 1 attempt every hour, and there's no way to really practice the boss besides just running the level over and over. So that's also where the Bulwark comes in really handy. But you know, if you're like a really high skill player, you might do better on tactical. Assault and heavy are just not in a great spot right now. I mean, they're still powerful. You can still clear true solo runs with them, but they're just not on the same power level as tactical and Bulwark. And then I would say Sniper's just a tiny bit under tactical and Bulwark, just because even though he did gain the contested health regen with his Q ability, it still is like a little bit finicky. Like, you hit Q and it has a little bit of a delay while he needs to touch his his little wrist thing and actually turn it on. And a lot of the times when you're solo running, that tiny delay can a lot of your health, your contested health, will disappear during that time frame. And then he has such a small health pool to begin with. Even with that contested health regen, if you take that perk whenever you use your ability, it still doesn't give him like super great survivability. His survivability comes from just killing everything before it gets a chance to damage him. So I mean, if you're playing like insanely well and you're just killing everything, sometimes those runs can be the most fun of any class because he has such high damage output, but it just leaves so little room for error. And one thing I will say about clearing this exfiltration level on a true solo run, the first part of the level up until you get to this building, I would say if you're struggling at all to clear this level, just run through that part and don't really stop until you make it into this building, because a lot of the time it can get really unfair because like a biovore could spawn in the sand and you have no choice but to run back out to him in the sand, and then the Trygon will be attacking you as you're trying to kill the biovore, and it's just like a really unfair situation. So it really evens the odds once you make it into that building. So usually sometimes I just run past all that and get into the building. But I still did get an A rank on the extermination at the end of the mission, so it's not like I was like skipping past too much. But as far as the design for the level, I really enjoyed this level. They did a good job making it a fair bit different than the other levels, to where it actually feels like completely new assets were used, and I really enjoyed the design of this level overall, even if the first part of it with the Trygon popping out of the sand is kind of annoying. And then when you make it to this part, usually you want to head for these boxes here and try to clear out some of the enemies in between these crates, and that'll provide you with some cover, and you can just kind of like work your way around the crates and try to keep a crate in between yourself and the Trygon. Or you can just run straight for the door and turn it on and get the timer started on that as quickly as possible. And those platforms, you can stand on them for a sec and also be protected from the Trygon, but they do sink into the sand pretty quickly, so I don't find them to actually be that useful. And this part can get pretty annoying too, because like the Tyranid snipers can be shooting you from far out in the sand, and it's not really worth it to try to run all the way back out to them and clear them out. So you just kind of have to deal with dodging their shots for a little while as the door opens. But luckily the heavy bolt pistol does have pretty decent range on it. And that's another thing that makes the Bulwark so good, is that he can block the range shots with his shield. And when you're playing other classes, you just have to depend on only dodging like sniper shots or the spike shooter volleys. And if you have like extremist enemies on you at the same time that you're trying to dodge range shots coming at you, sometimes even if you're really highly skilled, the timing just doesn't work out, you know, and you'll end up taking a hit, which at absolute difficulty you can only take a few hits before you're down. And then true solo gets even more difficult, because when you're just doing regular solo, even on absolute difficulty, you can still have the bots like pick you up, and then you can like work towards clearing your mortal wound. But on true solo, if you go down and you don't have a relic, that's it. So there's very, very little room for error when you're doing true solo. It took me about a full week of trying to clear this, so I don't know, maybe I did like 20 runs or something around there. So it was definitely difficult. And I've got almost 500 hours in the standard game, and then I think I just hit 60 hours in the PTS. Just to give you an idea of like what kind of time commitment it takes to be able to clear true solo. If you were like a really skilled player, I would imagine like you could maybe do it after 200 hours, I would say. You would have to be like insane player to do it, like between 50 to 100 hours of playing this game. Because there's just a lot to learn of like the little minor intricacies that you kind of need to know. And then also building all the like the muscle memory for dodging attacks and stuff like that, because you need to be able to do some of it without thinking about it, because you'll be kind of like thinking about other things that you need to do. And whenever you're running up to sniper enemies, you want to be careful about committing to slow melee attacks, because they can shoot you while you're locked into your melee animation, which will get you killed. So that's why I turned off the power stance there and went for the light attacks. Because with the power sword, with the fencing version, you can pretty much like dodge out of any light attack string, so it's pretty safe to commit to light attacks. But I would say don't do the lunging light attack while you're running up to a sniper tyrannid, because that one does lock you into the animation a little bit. And once you get into this section of the level, I really like this section, because you kind of like make it through that bullshit sandy area with the Trygon trying to sneak attack you. And so it feels pretty good just to be kind of have like a safe zone. But things can get pretty crazy in this section sometimes, so don't linger here too long. And there can be a relic in that section that I just checked there, so don't forget to check that spot. And then there's also a relic way at the beginning of the mission in that cave as soon as you drop down from the dropship area that drops you off, so that's another relic location. And then there's one other one as soon as you make it into that first little building. So I'm just trying to deal with these zoanthropes here, but I'm a bit low on ammo. I maybe should have turned on the power stance to get rid of those Minoris enemies there. And the Minoris enemies do become a little bit more of a problem in True Solo, because you don't really realize how much the bots do actually kill when you're running with the bots. So you do have to focus a little more on getting those Minoris cleared out quickly and efficiently. And I am going to go back for those zoanthropes, but I just want to get a little more ammo here. And then also I wanted to lure them into a little bit of a closer area so that I can try to take them out a little more quickly. And then I'm still not sure after over 500 hours in the game if you can block the zoanthrope shots with the bulwark shield. So if somebody does watch this part, let me know down in the comments if you know the answer to that for sure. It looked like in that clip I did block the zoanthrope shot, so maybe you can. And let's see if I do it again at all in this sequence. And then this Tyranid that shoots, I believe it's a Barb Strangler is his ranged weapon, but the one that puts those little poison vines on the ground, I just want to get him cleared out because those can get pretty annoying to deal with. And then just trying to keep my armor up a little bit, and then get out this other Barb Strangler shooter here. Might be a Stranglethorn cannon, but I think that may be a stronger version of them that's not in the game. Somebody that knows the lore really well, let me know if you know. And then, yeah, take a couple unfortunate shots to the face there. Sometimes I don't respect how fast those can travel. See there, I think I tried to block it with the shield and I got knocked back. Possibly because I didn't have any armor at that time, so maybe you can block it with a shield, but you need armor. But luckily I was able to use my flag and get healed up there, and finally got both of them cleared out. So I'm going to go check this area down here. I'm not sure if this one's a relic location, but I have found medkits down here before, so that's always a good one. And then, yeah, kind of unfortunate. I just used my flag and I'm already taking quite a bit of damage here. The Biovore is definitely my least favorite Tyranid extremist enemy. Just because their attack pattern is just kind of like obnoxious. They'll just attack, and then cannon, and then attack, cannon. And then sometimes if you're a little farther away, they'll do their blue circle attack, but I just find them to be a little bit obnoxious. And then the cannon is actually not that easy to dodge. You kind of do have to time it really well. And so I still get hit by the cannon quite a bit. But luckily I got them cleared out here, and I am pretty low health. But I don't want to waste the medkit unless I really have to, so I'm going to kind of play a little dangerously here and see if I can live until I can put the flag down again and maybe heal without the medkit, I think was my line of thought right now. And then with this section, I found it most beneficial to just run straight for the hole and put down a melt-a-bomb as soon as you can, and then you can just get the first hole cleared out ASAP. So that helps a lot. Sometimes there can be like 3 holes that you've got to clear out, and other times it can be just 2. I don't know if it's ever just a 1, but it's kind of like decapitation, where the amount of bombs you have to put down is random. This area is kind of the same. So as soon as you clear the first hole, run and look for another melt-a-bomb as quick as you can. And then it's not always super evident where the next hole is going to spawn, so try to pay attention where the enemy waves are coming from, and it'll kind of give you a clue where the next hole is. And you want to run and get the next hole cleared out as quick as you can, because I think the waves will just spawn infinitely if you don't. So here I did switch to my power stance. If you're dealing with a lot of Minotaurus enemies, it can be beneficial to go into power stance. So try to remember to switch back and forth when you're playing Bulwark, Power Sword. And then, yeah, just the Intimidating Aura parry coming in pretty clutch there. It just does insane damage. I think it's, I would say it's definitely a bit overtuned, you know. But we got both the holes blown up here, so just gonna work my way to the next area, but just wanted to clear it out a little more so I'm not just like running through without clearing stuff. And then this next area, sometimes you can just kind of run right through here, and then other times I've had like a lot of extremist enemies spawn, so it can be pretty hit or miss. And then I'm going to cut this section out because I was just taking a picture. Alright, so you might see it like skip a couple times real quick here just because I was editing out me taking a picture, so the video is not quite so long. And then we'll get into this next room here. So yeah, this room can be pretty hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes there's like a huge battle that happens in here, and then other times, like with this run, you can just kind of walk right through here. So it really just depends on the RNG, but this time it looks like I'm gonna get lucky and we'll just walk right through here. And then you'll see in a second up ahead there is a relic spawn location. So always make sure you check this back corner back here, because it seems to me this is one of the more common spots for the relic to be, so make sure you check that right there. And then we'll make our way into the main room here where the brain is. This room can be absolutely brutal with the spawn sometimes, and it can get pretty difficult due to the fact that you have to carry the battery for the generator. The best way that I've found to get through this room is to, if there's going to be a big initial wave that spawns in here, just clear it out before you pick up any batteries, and then try to get as few enemies as possible when you pick up the battery. And then once you have the battery, don't stop and just run directly to the drop-off point if you're soloing. If you're not soloing, you can probably, take your time a little bit and have your teammates cover you, but because of the way the battery works, you don't have the ability to parry, so it's really dangerous to carry it for very long at all. So try to figure out where the generators for the battery drop-offs are going to be, if you can spot them out on your way to pick up the battery, because it seems like there's 3 possible locations. So try to spy out where the battery's gonna need to get dropped off, and then just run straight there once you have the battery, because I've died a couple times while carrying the battery, and oh man, it feels bad, man. And sometimes when you first get into this room, it'll have you do the disconnection thing, which I'm doing right now, although it doesn't always do it. Sometimes it seems like you go straight to the battery pickup section, so it just depends. So far so good, just cruising through here. And then we have another capture point we need to do. See, and then I don't know if you don't capture both like quickly enough, if it just moves you to picking up the power cells. I think that may be what's going on there. Like she was able to disconnect it, and so now you have to put the power cells in, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. So luckily it was just one power cell this time, so I'm gonna go look for the power cell. And just kind of killing what I can on the way, but also, not stopping for too long. Because it seems like enemies in this room will just keep spawning and spawning, so yeah, you kind of want to just keep it moving a little bit, but also, you know, don't let too many enemies build up. And then just parrying these extremists to death. I somehow mistimed that parry, a bit unfortunate, but I got most of my health back, so that's when that 50% slower contested health fade really comes in nice, because it gives you a little bit more room, you know, to mess up, because you can get your health back. And that's why, you know, for the Bulwark in general, I think he's going to be the strongest in patch 7 for most people. You know, people that might say that tactical is stronger, like, they probably have close to 1,000 hours in the game, you know, but most average people are probably going to do better on Bulwark. If you're trying, like, really, really hard stuff, like soloing Absolute or True Solo. But if you're doing team play, I could see the tactical being maybe stronger, because you can just have your allies taking some of the heat off you, and then you can have more of a chance just to deal out a shit ton of damage. So I could possibly see, you know, that being a case for tactical being stronger in team play. And same kind of with the sniper, but he is just so squishy compared to the tactical. And it's weird because, you know, you would think since they added that ability for him to get his contested health back with his stealth ability, you know, it would be better, but he still feels really squishy to me. And then, yeah, I didn't know that there was a battery drop-off point down below, so I was just kind of running around looking for it here, and I was getting a little bit frustrated because the times I played this level, which must have been close to, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 by now, and actually made it to this point, I had never seen the battery drop-off point that's down below. But luckily it saw that I was lost, and it finally put the little interact sign on it, so I was like, oh, there it is. And then, yeah, kind of a bummer, but I had to use my med kit there because I was worried about dying, and good thing I did, because I took a crap load of damage there. And I really wanted to save my relic for the boss fight, so I'm like, I don't want to have to use it. I don't remember what ended up happening, if I ended up using it or not. I think I do get my flag down here, yeah. So, got my flag down, getting these guys cleared out. And that damage in the banner's area of effect, even though I was considering swapping it out in the build section of the video at the beginning, you do kind of see there it's like actually doing some decent work, you know, so it's definitely not a bad perk. And I could even see, you know, there being a case to take it. And then if you didn't take Invigorating Icon and you just tried to get a build where you're putting down the flag as often as possible, and you took that damage in the banner's area perk, that could be a pretty fun build, you know, just constantly having the flag down, putting out a ton of damage. And then I'm not sure if those little, like, electric server things hurt you if they explode next to you. I kind of think they do from what I can tell, so be careful if you're standing next to them, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And then we just got to get the brain now, and then we'll finally be out of this room. That's the only thing that's kind of a huge bummer about, like, running solo or True Solo is, like, these missions take just a really long time. So I'm definitely looking forward to Horde mode, where hopefully you know, the runs will be a little bit shorter, because it's definitely a little bit too much of a time commitment trying to solo a mission for an hour straight. And then, woo, I almost went down there. I think the biovores are kind of cheap, because with the mines exploding and stuff, you know, they can just get kind of like some cheap damage on you, and it doesn't feel fair sometimes. And then the fact that you can't even hurt them while they're in their artillery mode, so they're kind of a pain. But I've noticed the best thing is just to get in medium distance from them, start shooting them, and then they'll usually leap at you with the blue circle attack, and then just make sure that you take advantage of that, especially if you have a fencing weapon. That's your chance to parry and gunshot them. So yeah, just dealing with these zoanthropes. It's definitely better now that the Bulwark has the heavy bolt pistol, but it is still a little bit rough. So, but got the first one down here. Flag was already back up, so we're gonna heal up again. And then, I don't know, maybe I did use the flag. It seems like probably more than 5, maybe like 5 to 10. And then, alright, we're gonna pick up the brain and get the hell out of here. And we're almost done. I think we've maybe got like 15 minutes left in the run, tops. Hopefully. Let me check here. Yeah, pretty much exactly 15 minutes, so we're almost at the end here. So we're dealing with a Lictor and a Biovore in close quarters here, so really got to be careful with the Biovores in close quarters, because the spore mines can kind of hurt you if they're exploding next to you. So luckily that Lictor was kind enough to wait his turn there for a sec. And yeah, I don't know how it's going to be when they change the aggressiveness of the enemies in absolute difficulty. We'll have to see. Because right now they do kind of tend to, like, you know, a couple of them at a time might attack you, but sometimes they'll kind of wait their turn to attack you, you know, so it'll be interesting if they bump that up a little bit. And just checking for any ammo or pickups that I might be able to save for the boss fight. And it does seem like they improved the performance a little bit in this level, because when I was running through it earlier before the patch in the PTS, I was having a lot more performance issues. But I did also get a 5090 between then and now, which is a pretty high-end graphics card, so that could also have a lot to do with it. Alright, and then we got a pretty decent wave going on here. And then we got this barbed poison stuff on the ground, so gotta watch out for that. I'm getting a little bit backed into a corner here, and now I have nowhere to move, so I think I need to work my way out of this room. Yeah, if they're taking too much space from you with that poison stuff on the ground, you definitely want to think about repositioning, because the worst thing is standing in that stuff, because it can actually damage you pretty quickly. And then these whip warriors can be dangerous at times, because if you miss your parry on them, they can actually damage you fairly badly. And then if you've got a few of them on you, and they are able to stun you, they can actually take you down fairly quickly, to where, you know, you're kind of full health 1 second and everything's fine, and then you make one mistake and all of a sudden you're almost dead. So don't get you know, too complacent, even though they do seem pretty easy at times. One mistake can kind of end your run. Alright, so got most of these guys cleared out. The only kind of unfortunate thing about the Intimidating Aura build is, like, you do the majority of your damage through the parry and gun strike combo. So unfortunately, sometimes you just kind of are dependent on waiting for the enemy to attack you to get your damage out. So it can kind of slow the pace of the level down a bit, because you're just kind of waiting, you know, to parry their attacks. Whereas the sniper, you know, he can just like click heads and kill stuff really fast. And a lot of the time you don't even need to like melee execute stuff or gun strike it if you've still got full armor. So although, you know, you do get some buffs from gun striking stuff sometimes, but yeah, with sniper, a lot of the time, you know, if you're playing well, you can just, like, even if they're in execute status, you'll just shoot them in the head anyway and just get them cleared out, like, super fast. So that's why people tend to say Bulwark can get a little boring sometimes. And then there's always ammo over on this left side over here, so if you're low on ammo, just go to the left. And then as far as I know, I don't believe I found a relic in this section at all. So I have found a medkit though, so keep your eye out for boxes. And then, if I remember, I think something happens and I end up having to use the flag before the boss. So, but it's still full for right now. Oh, that sounds like an extremist spawn, so maybe I messed up on the extremists here. But what ends up happening is if I remember correctly, I think I have to use the flag. Oh, yep. So I lose all my health here. I have to use the flag, and then I get these guys cleared out, but I don't want to go into the boss fight without my flag, so I end up just letting the last little Termagon or Hormagon, I forget which it is, just shoot my shield for a little while, and it actually fills the flag up pretty quickly. So, and I included a little clip of that earlier in the build section of the video, but I thought that was, you know, kind of a cool thing that you can do if you need the flag back. So, alright, got all healed up here, didn't have to use my med kit, so that was nice. And then just get these last few guys cleared out. So, keep an eye on my flag. See, so when he does his next little volley here. So yeah, that actually helps it, you know, recharge a fair bit faster, which comes in pretty handy, you know. And the Bulwark definitely did not need, you know, more help getting his healing even faster, but you know, if they're going to give it to us, I'm not going to complain. So just going to wait here and make sure I have my flag going into the boss fight. Alright. So here we go. I think this was maybe the third time I had made it to the Trygon ever. So you're going to see me make definitely some mistakes here. Maybe I should have turned off the True Solo and just turned down the difficulty. But I've only practiced this level on absolute difficulty, so that's why I didn't make it over here to the boss too many times. So with that attack, where he rears up on his tail, I noticed if you just go straight back, just dodge straight back as far as you can, usually it won't hit you. And then when he pops out of the ground here, if you're paying attention and you're pretty quick about it, you can actually shoot him a couple times as he's flying towards you, which I think I do in this boss fight, but maybe not. And then you actually want to wait to dodge a little bit longer than you would think, but don't wait too long because there is a little bit of a window there. So if you're too late, it'll definitely hit you. And then one thing that makes Bulwark great for this boss fight, if you also take armor reinforcement, is with his parryable attacks, if you gun strike him, you get that armor bar back, so you can kind of like trade with him even if he hits you with the second swipe. But I think after I do the boss fight a few more times, I'll probably parry his first swipe, but don't gun strike, and wait for that second swipe to see if it's going to come out. But he doesn't always do the second swipe that you can parry, so you kind of got to get used to whether you're going to parry or not. And then as soon as you get him about to 75% health, he's going to go under the ground and do the little holes where he pops the Tyranids out. So if you see him disappear, just start running towards him over there, because you're going to need to put the melta bomb down on the hole. And so, yeah, I used the flag to heal back up there. And I used my med kit at some point in there, so we're down to just a relic now. And then, yeah, see there, the Whip Warrior took out all my armor in one attack there, so they can get you down pretty quick if you make a mistake. And then, luckily that lightning attack comes out pretty slow. I've never gotten hit by it so far. Yeah, I needed to be a little faster getting backed up there when he reared up, but luckily it just hurt my armor, but I got hit by that swipe attack. And then, yeah, so you can shoot him a little bit as he's coming towards you and get some free damage off. And then I definitely found it best to dodge into him when he's flying at you, except with that attack where he jumps off the wall. Usually if you go back, it doesn't seem like it's going to hit you, from what I've seen. And then just watching out for the lightning again. That does look pretty badass. I think they did a really nice job with this boss fight. See, yeah, so... See, that time I took the gun strike right away, and the second swipe didn't hurt me. But I think the better thing to do would be to parry, and then gun strike. And then, oh, got hit by that again, but man, the damage reduction on the Bulwark coming in really clutch here. So we're getting him pretty close, but he's gonna spawn some more enemies, so I'm just running over there as fast as I can. And watch out, because he will kind of like be underneath the sand like how he was at the very beginning of this level. So just watch out for him, because sometimes his little sand attacks can actually hurt you pretty bad if you get hit by it. So I forgot to grab a melt-a-bomb, so gotta run back, get that, make it back to the hole. Put the melt-a-bomb down. Alright. I think that's the last time we have to do that. And a quick little pause here. Yeah, so definitely dodge into him when he's doing that one. And those swipes, yeah, they just have a little bit of an odd timing. They have like a slight delay, so it's a little tough to get used to them. But luckily I'm just trading with them with the gun strike and armor reinforcement, so. And I'm coming out on top since the gun strike damage is not too bad with the heavy bolt pistol. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that I didn't get to melee him at all. I'm sure you can, but I was just not wanting to risk it, really. And then kind of got hit by that, unfortunately. So he's almost got me down here. But I do still have the relic, so we should be alright. I don't remember if I think he does make me use the relic, but not 100% sure. And see, oh nope, he didn't. But yeah, if you wait a little bit longer and get the perfect dodge on that attack where he springs out of the ground, it'll give you a free gun strike as well. So try to work on your timing for that if you're having any trouble with this boss fight, or when you guys do get to do it if you're on console. And thanks for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you would like to see next down in the comments, and if you've been enjoying the content, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel.